So Inktober from 2024, right? Yep. Alright, dude, you make the video. Let's see what you got. Alright. This video was supposed to come out in 2024. There's no excuses other than I just fell off on it. So here's my best attempt to fulfill Inktober 2024 with two of my most uncomfortable mediums, watercolor and ink. Ready? Let's go.
The video. I know Inktober was so long ago. Here is a flashback to when I was making a valiant attempt. It is day 2. It is time to get the Fabriano watercolor pad set to start the Inktober. So let's go ahead and just get it over with in this video. I actually completed this set of Inktober 2024 this week. I worked on it the last 2 weeks, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to dust each one of them, and I wrote a very short paragraph of each of the prompt for each day, and it's kind of how I visualize the drawings in my head, and then I try to execute them on paper. Watercolor and ink, like I said earlier, they're my weak point, so I'm going to try my best. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to it and start with our adventure. I will tell you each day, I'll tell you the prompt, I'll read you the short story, and then I'll tell you a little bit of what I thought about the process or the painting. Here we go. Day 1. Day 1, backpack. One day, 2 brothers decided it'd be great to go on an adventure together. So like any good explorer, tools are needed, and 2 gathered what they thought any good explorer would need. Map, compass, binoculars, camera, passport, guidebook, remote, journal, etc. Things that kind of go with the prompts. The bag's going to be stuffed with all the contents, and originally I wanted the binoculars to hang around their head and their necks and stuff like that, but I ended up changing it to just throwing it in the backpack. And the brother, I was going to have both of them in frame, but I decided to have the older brother doing the packing, and then the younger brother is going to be the one that's going to be creeping, like peeking to see what's going to be in the bag. And once the bag was packed, it was on the road they went. So what lies ahead for our 2 young adventurers? Well, we're going to find out. Now, for this piece, I did not mind doing this. The yellow background was very scary for me because I don't like creating things with very light colors because it's hard for me to not want to hide all my mistakes. But it's okay. I wish I would have done the hat a little bit different because it kind of obviously it blends in. But we live and learn. Now on to day 2. Day 2 is discover. In today's journey, as the 2 young brothers got up, one of them noticed some strange tracks leading to a tree. Once the boys got closer to the tree, there were a couple birds that they have never seen before, and when they held their breath with excitement, one of them jumped down to examine the 2 strange creatures. The bird turns his head left and right, chirped, and ran away. But for those 2 brothers, they were filled with possibility and excitement to see what the rest of the journey has for them. When I was working on this piece, I, again, wanted to create something that I don't usually do. I don't do a lot of sceneries and backgrounds and stuff like that. And as far as colors go, I was starting off with the yellows and just kind of giving it that midday feel like, oh, they're outside and this is the weather. One of the biggest things I learned when I was doing this piece though, my consistent for the characters' designs have been all over the place. It was a very, 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 very big lesson that I'll learn. Me personally, I think when I finish these pieces with the inking, that is how I pull it all together. This one was probably one of the more detailed ones that I wasn't the biggest fan of. But now we're on to day 3. Boot. Setting, rain, Mud puddle. Duh. The rain came in and continued on hard, but the boys, too, carried on, climbing up the hills to see where the next adventure would take them. And as they were making their way down the hill, the two fell in a puddle, and once they got up, the older brother got up and, well, tried to help the younger one, and both fell back in. Their boot got stuck in the mud. They tried their best to get it out, but they were head over heels caked in mud. And, well, not every adventure is going to be clean and easy. Now, was it? Doing this piece, I kind of went with the, no pun intended, a muddy green. That way I can get that, oh, well, it's raining and the mud is running down to create this puddle on the trail and stuff like that. And I thought I did okay, but the issue, I believe, me personally, I think I did not accentuate the difference between the mud puddle and the trail itself. So that was my personal thought. I should have done a little bit different with the sky, and I did a little bit of accent to make it look like it was raining with the color pencil. But I think I could have did it just a little bit better. Maybe I could have made the sky a little bit darker. But let's go ahead and go on to day 4, which was exotic. Setting, campfire, nighttime. As the rain dissipated, the two bundled up for a warm and comfy night. The older brother had placed a few food items to prepare for the younger brother that has never seen before, and s'mores. Once he unwrapped the chocolate and a couple of marshmallows and some crackers, the younger brother watched in amazement as the older brother put marshmallows on some roasting sticks and watched the marshmallow change colors until they were a slightly brown color. The older brother then made a sandwich by placing the chocolate on the graham cracker and then the slightly melted marshmallow and gave it to the brother, and he showed him how to eat it. The younger brother blew off the sweet sandwich and crunched down with the gooey marshmallow running that was warm and delicious, stretched and then gone. Twinkling in his eye, the younger brother did the same as the older brother did and was in awe at the exotic taste that he never knew before. When I was creating this piece, again, my biggest issue was the consistent character design. I want to say this was probably one of my favorite settings because I was able to use the warmth of the fire to get the brothers lit up in that particular area using the yellow and the red and the orange, and then using the darker blues and everything to make the nighttime surrounding, showing that there was that one singular light source. The colors themselves, I wanted to keep them almost true to the original reference, with the younger brother having the yellow and then the green, and then the older brother having like the blue and purple, because I want to keep it that difference. That way there's a stark contrast between the two. The lighting was a little bit better than what I thought it would have been, but again, I need to work on my character designs to keep them true and do like a whole little character study to keep them the same and proportions and stuff like that, but not too bad. So let's go ahead and go to day 5, which was binoculars. Setting, early morning. Continuing on their journey, the two brothers reached the top of the hill, and the view was more expansive and wider than they thought possible. Carrying around his neck, the younger brother raised the pair of binoculars to his eyes and began to peer through. Sights that were so far away now felt like he could reach out and grab them with how close they were. And excitedly, the younger brother looked left and right, and as excited he was, the older brother did ask if he could see a path that marched on the map. And slowing down, there was a dirt path that did trail off. A quick nod and two were on their way. That was the original prompt, but when I started creating it, I felt like it should have been the older brother that looked first, looking at the expansive way. And honestly, out of all the ones I have done, I like to think this was my favorite, partially because I got this feeling that I was creating something that was a scene from Hey Arnold, just with how the colors came to be. With the sunlight, I did the sky so well, in my opinion, between having it blend from yellow to a nice orange gradient, and then having that orange casting upon the city, and then of course they were higher up on the hill, and just having the grass and trees and everything else just glowing and having that warmth. Now, one thing I will say, as I was shading all of it, I wish I would have done just a little bit more as far as like the sky goes, and I do believe I should have done the story where the brother originally had it and then went to the younger brother, but overall this was really good. Let's go ahead and go to day 6, which was Trek. Setting midday, walking on a dirt path. As the two brothers made their way into the unknown, the path was appearing to be never ending. With the red dirt collecting on their boots, dust following them as they trekked on, the older brother stared off in the distance, seeing no definitive ending in sight, and a feeling of despair creep in until he felt a nudge against his side. Looking down, he sees his younger brother, grinning ear to ear and saying, "Adventure," the sun beaming down on him. The older brother smiled, the despair melted away, and, the two decided to trek on. This one was one of the most interesting ones because this is going to be with the characters from the 3/4 turn back side, I guess. So trying to draw them walking and keeping them in proportionate to themselves while keeping them in frame. It's a lot of words I just said that I don't know if it made sense or not, but I wanted to work on my coloring, and that was a hard part for me because I did have the description where I was working on, the red path, and I wanted to have it still feel like it was summer, so in a undisclosed location in the United States that I based this upon, but I liked how this one did turn out. I think the colors are starting to get true to form. Again, character study is my biggest weakness right now. They don't have anything that resembles themselves except for the younger brother with his hair, but the proportions are all off. Like I have the younger brother looking more like a shorter person than a younger kid, and the older brother, his body slowly is turning into like what's the comic? I think like Blondie mixed with the Simpsons. But overall, this one wasn't too bad. I need to work on perspective, but I do like that one. And now we're gonna go to day 7, which was Passport. The setting, it's a dirt with passports laid open. This is the shortest description I have. Nothing too crazy, just a couple of passports with a few stamps, one red with some crimping on the outside, and another green one with a seal that says "Adventure is out there," and put a little homage to Calvin and Hobbes, if you will. This one was fun. I looked up a few references on what the inside of a passport looks like that has some stamps and everything already in it, and then after that I just went and made it. I have the younger brothers and their information. I wanted to do a whole bunch of like actual, this is their name, this and the fourth, but I felt like that would kind of give them an identity, and I wanted to keep them anonymous or mysterious. So I ended up just doing some scribbles, and the best part about this, me personally, I liked how the stamps looked. I like how I did not go all the way through with what I wanted to originally and have the passports all blue and then trying to give some light. I think having the outline of the passport book being a dark blue and then having the inside a very light blue, you can almost miss it if you look at it. And the ground came out so well. It truly looks like passports on a dirt path. And then once I added the outline, I think that just like brought it all in. Now, if I would have done this differently, I may have had left the dark outline off because I was doing like a whole little rough sketch to kind of complete the pieces. But now we're on day 9. Oh, sorry, my fault, I misspoke. Day 8, hike. At the end of the long dirt path, the two brothers were faced with a startling hill. A hill that just kept climbing up and touching the clouds. The two looked at each other, cinched up the bag, tied their laces, and began to hike. Loose rocks, sparse pieces of vegetation, and the two climbed and climbed, feeling the rocks slide underneath their sole, and dust trailed behind them. Now with this one, I wanted to keep perspective in mind, and I had this image in my head where they were non-existent, very small, and the hill was, a massive hill. So for this one, I liked how the clouds looked. I liked that I gave the vegetation a little bit of I was making up words. A little bit of sparse vegetation. And the brothers as a black silhouette. Honestly, it was more so for me, so that way I didn't have to try to do too much detail, but just give them enough where it's like, oh, this is one, this is the other, and go from there. Now, what I could have done was maybe have the brothers a little further back and maybe a little more on top of the hill itself, but the clouds came out very well and the sky was chef's kiss. And now we're on day 9, sun. Setting top of the hill. The sun was the enemy and it was cooking the two brothers like a couple eggs. Draw the brothers' faces in eggs and sunny side up indeed. This one was a very nonsensical one. Of course, I have this image in my head of Ed and Eddie. I think it was called Butter Ed Up or something along the lines where they went to a beach and they were trying to find this particular spot. It was that one and the one where they were not invited to the party, but they were standing with their swimsuits. That was like my inspiration. And yeah, I just drew some eggs with the sun just beaming, and that was the main focal point. I liked how the colors came out because it's like, oh, they are cooking. I should have done maybe a little bit like heat waves off of the ground coming up, but with the sun cheesing with the sunglasses and you can see the heat wave and the little bit of sweat coming from the brothers, I think that was like pretty nice. Day 10, nomadic. Setting zoomed out of deserted vast openness with 2 dots. When I was creating this piece, I wanted to either have this desert, but then I felt like it was too much like day 3 with the boot and mud, and I felt like there were just a lot of dry, arid conditions. So I wanted to create something that was a little bit more deciduous, vegetation filled. And so I did this in my head, sky horizon with some forestry, hills going on. So the background was coming together pretty nicely. My biggest weakness when I was doing these watercolors was letting them dry. And so then I drew the 2 dots at the very bottom and then their footsteps going through hills and everything, and with the sky beaming with a beautiful sunset. Now, I will say I don't think I did the landscape well enough. The hills themselves kind of conveyed a point of here's this, but I think I got a little bit carried away with the shading, and I didn't make enough of a definite defining hill elevation, and my perspective was a little bit off. I should have did more, but because I was doing it with ink, it was kind of finalizing the point. Now, unfortunately for this one, we are on the final one, which was day 11, snacks. The setting, 2 brothers sitting down, the framing circled and grounded. It's finally snack time, and boy oh boy did the 2 snack. Pastries that were packed from their mothers, sugar giving them the warm feeling of tenderness and love. When I started this one, I had so many different ways I wanted to create the brothers. They were either going to be sitting on logs or they were going to be sitting against something. And then I was like, oh, well, let me just go ahead and draw them sitting on the ground. This proved to be a little bit more difficult for me because of proportions and angles and not having references based off of, which if you are doing something like this, if you use references, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why I didn't. I should have looked up a little bit more, but I originally wanted this to be like, oh, let's do this in 5 days. Like I can do 31 paintings of a medium that I'm not used to, and comparing or complementing both of them, combining them with ink. Anyways, when I did create this one, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not too bad. And erasing and then trying to paint over it was one of the most difficult parts, because I did lose a lot of detail and having to go back into my footage and recapture that. I did get better with my backgrounds, honestly. I liked how the gradients were coming back into play. One thing I did kind of make the mistake of was having, I think it was a orchard brown, and running that in the middle. But it did help with that dividing point of this the ground, this the background. The brothers' clothes I did keep true. Their boots were kind of funky, but once I started adding the trust the process of the inking, it really brought everything into perspective, and it was okay. I wish I would have done a little bit better on the younger brother's arm because it looks real funky, and I think I tried to cover it up by doing some additional sketching and inking and stuff like that, and of course the proportions were kind of weird, but other than that, let's go ahead and go to the final shots and our closing thoughts. My favorite one that I did out of all of these personally was binoculars and passport. Those two were my favorite. I thought I did those the best. Honorable mention was the campfire. Out of all these that I thought were my weakest, or maybe next time, champ, maybe you can do a little bit better. Day 10, nomadic, I felt like it was very lost. Barring character designs aside and consistency, that's something I'm just gonna have to work on. I do think that was one of my weakest ones because I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I think it was not the best. Then I guess second not best one was the boot with the mud. It could have been better. But hey, we learn from our mistakes, we learn from what we create, and we can only get better by working on one thing at a time. So thank you so much for watching. My name's INKtober Sonic, and I will see y'all in the next video. It's been a minute, but peace, love, and hot sauce, and as always, thanks for watching.